Okay, I'm gonna ask you then this part.
Hmm.
What did you? Who did you feel once they explained the situation? Once Kevin Durant and Draymond explained the situation that happened, what was that in 2018, I guess, um, in LA, the Clippers game. It came down to the end, and they had their incident. When they both explained the situation, apparently, and more specifically on Draymond when he explained his response to the situation. What did you feel about that? And on top of that, do you think the Warriors need to do something because of his response?
Oh, so okay, so here's the thing, right? Like on any other team, Draymond Green would not be considered a superstar. I don't even think. Well, I don't even think he's considered super. He's considered a star and part of the Warriors three, and was a four
Right,
because KD was the big three when they were there. Um,
right,
so, but he is obviously the heart and soul of that Warriors team when it comes to motivating that team, being an inspiration, being the most vocal leader on that team. So, and for those of you who haven't seen the interview and what we're referring to, apparently when Bob Myers and Steve Kerr approached Draymond Green about the incident, they pretty much told him that they were going to suspend him, and he laughed in their face. And they said, "Well, that wasn't a response that we were expecting or that we should get." And he said, "Well, I'm either going to laugh or curse you out. Which one do you want?" To your coach
right.
or your GM. You know what I'm saying? Um, Pretty much told them, "I don't care about your suspension and get out of my face." Pretty much is kind of what he, um,
Yeah,
alluded to saying. And I guess the way he said it on this interview was just to say, "Yeah, I said it, and I'd probably say it again." Almost. I think that was the problem with for me with the way he said it was like it was pretty much like, "Yeah, I said it, and I'll say it again." Because in that moment, who are you going to tell? Like, who are you to tell me that you're going to suspend me? Now, I get, again, going back to the Malice at the Palace thing, I get that different perspectives are needed, right? Because like one of the things that Jermaine O'Neal said in that Malice at the Palace documentary that really stuck with me that a lot of times people don't know, a lot of these basketball players are friends for real.
right,
And yes, heated on the court, it may look bad. The optics may look bad sometimes, but give them 5 seconds and they'll talk this out. You know what I'm saying? Like, had that fan waited 10 seconds before he threw that cup, there probably never would have been a scuffle because they probably would have talked whatever, whatever. You know what I'm saying? And so, from the
exactly.
optics point, Bob Myers, Steve Kerr, everybody looking at it on TV and ESPN replaying it a bunch of times. Yeah, it looks bad. Like, oh, I got to come in and do something right now as a GM. You know what I'm saying? I got to come do something. So in Draymond's mind, he's probably like, man, you're making this bigger than it really is. And that's kind of how I took it. But you don't laugh at your GM and tell him that you're going to curse him out for suspending you. You know what I'm saying? Like, you still,
Right.
I don't care how high and mighty you are. I know y'all are off all these championships and all this other stuff going on, still don't do that, and I don't feel like you even still to this day feel like you were wrong for that at all.
Yeah. And so this is where I have a big problem with this. This interview came out obviously. It was actually pretty good. I'm not even gonna lie. Like I was, it was entertaining, and it brought back old stuff. But this is a problem. It did bring back old stuff. This is something that happened in 2018. This is something that I guess is kind of over and done with, except for the fact that you brought it up again. Kevin Durant has moved on. Kevin Durant is on the Brooklyn Nets. He's been on the Brooklyn Nets for 2 years. He's only played this past year, but they've already done their thing. They just won. They just were in uh, um, with Tokyo just recently. Obviously, they won the gold medal together. Steve Kerr was the coach, so this obviously came on right after everything that happened. The problem I have is this: Draymond, you still play for the Warriors. You have training camp or mini camp or whatever you want to call it in about a month. Okay, you sat there and basically you knew that these questions you already had to talk it over with Kevin Durant before this because he started off the situation by saying please basically tell the people, because I've been getting killed for this whole thing. Please tell the people how you felt about it. So he knew where Kevin was going to go.
Mm-hmm.
Kevin said his piece, basically said it was Steve Kerr and Bob Myers handled this wrong. Right? From there, Draymond then elaborates on everything that happened. Now, this is private conversation. This is stuff that's not supposed to get out. I'm sure Bob Myers did not agree to this coming out. I'm sure Steve Kerr did not agree to this coming out. This is a private conversation about what happened. Draymond basically told every single bit of their business without their consent. And then said, like you alluded to, that he laughed in their face.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
to avoid cursing them out.
To avoid cursing them out. And it basically said, you fucked this up. Kevin Durant agreed. They didn't hold any accountability for what they did. Now, I understand, like you just said, this probably could have been hashed out at the time. It probably could have been done a different way, and that's fine. But Draymond, you still play for this team.
Mm-hmm.
This is still your boss. You can't say stuff like that. You can't then reiterate how they were weak and how they didn't do things right.
Yeah.
You could have let Kevin talk and say what he had to say and say, okay, I understand that. Next question. But you reiterated how Steve Kerr and Bob Myers did not handle that situation right, how they didn't know what to do, how they don't know what to do, and how to handle you.
Yeah, that was
I'm going to
bad.
rewind the situation, very bad. I'm going to round the situation back to when they played in 2016 in OKC, one of the greatest games I've ever seen. Steph Curry went bananas, wound up hitting that three-pointer from almost half court and beat Kevin Durant and them. Best game I've ever seen. The problem with that whole game was in that locker room, they literally had to call the police on Draymond because he was going to beat Steve Kerr's ass in the locker room. Like physically assault him. They had to call the police. The problem I'm having with this whole situation is that Draymond especially has no boundaries.
Mm-mm.
And he is basically showing to the world that they do not do anything and he can run the show himself.
Which
Steve Kerr and Bob Myers have no control and they cannot do anything about it.
which might be very, very ill-timed considering the Warriors are still in some people's minds considering a Ben Simmons trade. So Draymond, that might not have been the best time to put this out. Like you may have waited till the season started or something.
And the cold part about it is Draymond is one of the smartest people in the NBA. I'm just going to say this. There might have been something behind this.
It might be. I mean, he got his money last year, so
that's what I'm saying. He's already paid.
So
if they just brought in rookies, they just brought in and they didn't give him any vets or anybody to come with. He might not be wanting to go for a rebuild year, or at least a year where they, maybe can get in, maybe they can't. Maybe he knows more than we know about the situation.
What you don't want to do, as we've seen before, is that you don't want to put Bob Myers in a place of basically trying to show who's stronger, because we know he'll make a move just to make it. Whether it's the best basketball move or not, he'll make a move just to make it. And I think, by saying that the way you said it, Draymond, I'm not saying you forced the hand, but you're making it like, hold on, bro, who's the boss around here again? Like, wait a minute, who runs the show? And that's a tightrope to walk. Like, that's a thin line, tightrope to walk. So,
and Warriors fans, look, I love Draymond. I'm not about to sit here.
I love Draymond
and
too.
Kevin Durant. Like, I'm not about to sit here and it's because I've talked about the situation that he's not one of my favorite players. The problem is this is still a business, and you still have to understand that the ramifications of what you do and what you say, things will happen. And the last 2 years, the Draymond that we know has not looked like the Draymond that we've known. I'm sorry.